Vincent Callahan wasn't a man you questioned. He was the iron fist that held this city's throat, the name whispered in back rooms where fortunes were made and bodies disappeared. But his empire, built on fear and blood, had one crack in its foundation: his 3-year-old daughter, Lily. For 3 years, she had existed in complete silence. Specialists called it trauma-induced mutism. Vincent called it the price of his sins. That silence shattered on a cold November evening at Aurelio's, when the most ruthless man in the state froze like a man facing execution, because Lily finally spoke. She didn't call for her father. She pointed one small, trembling finger at a startled waitress and uttered the single word that would drag an innocent woman into the darkness of the Callahan Empire: Mama. The crystal chandeliers of Aurelio's cast geometric shadows across white linen tablecloths, each table a small island of wealth and whispered power. This wasn't a restaurant where ordinary people dined. It was where politicians laundered favors, where CEOs sealed mergers with handshakes worth millions, and where occasionally someone's career or life ended between the appetizer and the main course. Claire Donovan smoothed down her crisp white apron in the service station, her pulse thrumming faster than it should. 27 years old, with eyes that had seen too many closed doors and empty bank accounts, she'd been working at Aurelio's for exactly 2 months. It was her lifeline. The tips alone covered her rent in a cramped apartment across town and kept the lights on. Nothing more, nothing less. Claire, focus. Gianni, the floor manager, a nervous man who treated every dinner service like a bomb disposal operation, grabbed her shoulder. His grip was urgent, almost painful. Table 12 just sat down. You're assigned to them. Listen to me very carefully. Do not speak unless he addresses you directly. Do not linger. Do not make sudden movements. And for God's sakes, do not look at the child too long. Claire's brow furrowed as she adjusted the wine bottle on her tray. Gianni, is it the governor? The DA? The color drained from Gianni's face so quickly she thought she might faint. Around them, the kitchen staff had gone unnaturally still. The sous chef's knife hovered mid-chop. Even the dishwasher had stopped running water. Worse, Gianni breathed. Vincent Callahan. The name landed like a stone in water. Everyone in the city knew it. Vincent Callahan wasn't just connected, he was the connection. The Callahan family controlled everything from construction contracts to shipping routes, from union votes to police precincts. Ink-stained, dead-eyed, and utterly untouchable. The kind of man who made problems disappear with a phone call. Claire swallowed hard, picked up her wine bottle, and walked toward table 12, not knowing she was walking toward the end of her old life. Claire's legs felt like they might give out as she approached table 12. The wine bottle was slick in her trembling hands, and she forced herself to take slow, measured breaths. Through the archway, she could see him, Vincent Callahan, silhouetted against the window, a man carved from shadows and expensive tailoring. Don't look at the child too long, Gianni had said, but how could she not? The little girl beside him sat perfectly still in her navy velvet dress, her golden curls catching the chandelier light. There was something heartbreaking about a 3-year-old who knew how to disappear. Good evening, Mr. Callahan. May I pour your wine? Vincent didn't acknowledge her with words, just a slight nod, his eyes fixed on something beyond the window. Claire tilted the bottle, watching the deep red Cabernet spiral into the crystal glass. Her hands were steadier than she'd expected. Years of waitressing had taught her how to perform under pressure. She was about to step back when she felt it, a shift in the air. Lily was staring at her, not just looking, staring with an intensity that made Claire's breath catch. The little girl's blue eyes were wide, shimmering with something Claire couldn't name. Recognition? Longing? Lily's small hand lifted from her lap, one finger extending, pointing directly at Claire's face, her lips parted. Mama. The word cut through the silence like a knife. Every head in the dining room turned. The businessman 3 tables over stopped mid-sentence. A waiter dropped a fork that clattered against marble. But Claire only saw Vincent Callahan's face as he turned to look at his daughter, then slowly, deliberately, at her. His dark eyes held her in place like a predator who'd just spotted prey. Vincent stood, towering over her, his voice like grinding stones. "You don't know it yet, but you're the most important person in this city. You're coming with us." What? No, I can't just... "You can." He pulled out his phone, pressed a single button. "Marco, bring the car around, back entrance." To Claire, "Get your things. Say goodbye to your manager if you need to. You have 5 minutes." Claire's mind raced. This was insane. She should refuse, should scream, should run. But something in Vincent's expression told her running wouldn't matter. And the way Lily was still looking at her, reaching for her with those small hands, made her heart crack open. "Mr. Callahan, please." 4 minutes now. Claire found herself moving, found herself walking to the back, pulling off her apron with shaking hands, grabbing her purse from her locker. Gianni appeared, his face ashen. "Claire, what's happening?" "I don't know," she whispered. Tell them I'm sorry." Outside the back entrance, a black SUV idled, exhaust curling in the cool night air. Vincent emerged from the restaurant with Lily in his arms, the little girl's face buried in his neck. 2 men in dark suits flanked him, the kind of men who made problems disappear. One of them opened the rear door. Vincent gestured for Claire to get in first. She hesitated at the threshold, staring into the dark interior that felt like the mouth of something she couldn't escape. "Please," Vincent said, and there was something in his voice, not quite a plea, but close. "She needs you." Claire looked at Lily one last time. The little girl lifted her head, reaching out. "Mama." Claire got in the car. Vincent slid across from her, settling Lily against his chest. The door closed with a heavy, final thunk. The locks engaged with a soft click that sounded like a cell door closing. The drive to the Callahan estate took 37 minutes, though Claire stopped counting after the first 10. She sat in the back of a black SUV with tinted windows so dark she couldn't see the city passing by, only her own pale reflection staring back at her. Vincent sat across from her, Lily asleep against his chest, her golden curls spilling over his tailored suit jacket. He hadn't spoken since they left the restaurant. He didn't need to. The 2 men in the front seat, silent and broad-shouldered, said everything about what kind of situation she was in. When the gates opened, Claire's breath caught. The mansion wasn't a home, it was a fortress. Stone walls, security cameras every 10 feet, and guards who moved like shadows across manicured lawns. The SUV stopped in front of marble steps that gleamed under floodlights. Vincent carried Lily inside without a word. Claire followed because she didn't know what else to do. A woman in a gray uniform, a housekeeper maybe, appeared and took Lily from Vincent's arms with practiced care, disappearing up a grand staircase without a sound. Vincent turned to Claire them, his eyes meeting hers for the first time since the restaurant. Up close, the tattoos on his neck were even more intricate, thorns and script and something that looked like a date. His gaze was the kind that didn't blink, didn't waver, didn't leave room for negotiation. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a leather chair in what appeared to be his office. Dark wood, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, a desk that looked like it cost more than her entire year's salary. Claire sat. Her hands were shaking. Vincent poured 2 glasses of whiskey from a crystal decanter, set one in front of her, then settled into the chair behind his desk. He didn't drink, he just watched her. "My daughter spoke for the first time tonight," he said, his voice low and controlled. "She called you Mama. Do you understand what that means?" Claire's throat was dry. "Mr. Callahan, I think there's been a..." "It means you're exactly what she needs." He leaned forward, elbows on the desk. "So here's how this works. You're going to live here. You're going to be the mother Lily needs. You'll have your own room, your own space. You'll be compensated generously, more than you'd make in 10 years slinging wine at Aurelio's." "I can't just..." "You can." His tone didn't rise, but it hardened like cooling steel. because the alternative is walking out that door and spending the rest of your life wondering if I'll decide you're a liability, if you know too much, if you've seen too much. He paused, letting the weight of the words settle. I don't make threats, Miss Donovan. I make promises, and I promise you, if you're in my life, you're safe. If you're not, he left the sentence unfinished. Claire stared at the untouched whiskey. Her hands had stopped shaking, but only because she'd gone numb. Do we have an understanding? Vincent asked. She looked up at him, at the monster who held a sleeping child like she was made of glass. Yes, Claire whispered. Good. Vincent stood, buttoning his jacket. Maria will show you to your room. We'll discuss details in the morning. He walked out, leaving Claire alone in the vast, silent office, a prisoner in a mansion that felt like a beautiful, inescapable cage. Claire woke to sunlight filtering through curtains that probably cost more than her car. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality crashed back. The restaurant, the word, the drive, the mandate. She was in the Callahan mansion and she wasn't leaving. Her room was larger than her entire apartment. King-sized bed with silk sheets, an ensuite bathroom with marble everything, and a walk-in closet that had been filled overnight with clothes in exactly her size. Someone had been watching her long before last night. The thought made her skin crawl. She dressed in jeans and a sweater, her own clothes, because she refused to wear anything he'd provided yet, and ventured into the hallway. The house was a maze of corridors and closed doors, all of it suffocatingly quiet. Back at Aurelio's, there was always noise, clinking glasses, shouted orders, the hum of conversation. Here, silence pressed against her ears like deep water. She found Lily in a sunroom playing with wooden blocks on a plush rug. The little girl looked up when Claire entered, and her face split into a smile so pure it made her chest ache. Mama, Lily said, reaching up. Claire knelt beside her, throat tight. Hey, sweetheart, I'm Claire. But Lily just wrapped small arms around her neck, and Claire found herself hugging back, blinking away tears she didn't understand. She's been waiting for you. Vincent's voice made Claire jump. He stood in the doorway, dressed in a charcoal suit that fit him like armor, already looking like he'd conquered half the city before breakfast. But there was something different in the morning light. He looked tired, the kind of tired that lives in your bones. I didn't mean to intrude, Claire said, starting to stand. You're not intruding. This is your home now. He stepped into the room, and Claire noticed the way he moved, controlled, economical, like a man constantly aware of the threat he posed. He sat on the floor beside Lily, and the little girl immediately climbed into his lap, tiny hands reaching up to touch his face. Claire watched him gentle his expression, watched the hardness crack just slightly. That's when she saw it, really saw it, the tattoo on his neck, the one she'd glimpsed last night. It wasn't just decoration. The thorns wrapped around a date, November 8th, 2022, 3 years ago, when Lily would have been just born. Her mother, Claire said quietly, not quite a question. Vincent's jaw tightened. His hand stroked Lily's curls with a tenderness that seemed at odds with everything else about him. Car accident. Lily was in the back seat. She saw everything. His voice was flat, but underneath it, Claire heard the fault lines. The doctors say that's why she stopped talking, why she stopped everything. Claire looked at his hands, scarred knuckles, a ring on his right hand with an inscription she couldn't read. Hands that probably did terrible things, now cradling a child with heartbreaking care. You're not what I expected, she said, before she could stop herself. Vincent looked up at Claire, and for the first time she saw past the monster everyone feared. She saw a man drowning in grief, trying desperately not to pull her daughter under with him. Neither are you, Miss Donovan, he said. Neither are you. 3 weeks into her captivity, because that's what it was, no matter how expensive the sheets, Claire made a decision that would either get her killed or set her free. She took Lily outside. Not to the manicured gardens with their security cameras and stone walls, to the public park 6 blocks away, where normal children played on swings and mothers pushed strollers and life happened without armed guards watching from sedan windows. Vincent had rules, mountains of them. Lily didn't leave the estate. Lily didn't interact with strangers. Lily's routine was sacred, controlled, measured. Every meal, every nap, every moment accounted for and sanitized. It was suffocating the child, and Claire couldn't watch it anymore. She dressed Lily in a simple yellow dress and walked out the front door at 2 p.m, heart hammering, half expecting someone to stop her. No one did. Maybe they were too surprised. Maybe they immediately called Vincent. Claire didn't care. The park was alive with autumn, leaves crunching underfoot, the smell of someone's coffee from a nearby bench, kids shrieking with laughter on the playground. Lily's eyes went wide. She clutched Claire's hand tighter, but not from fear, from wonder. Claire led her to the swings, the smaller ones meant for toddlers. She lifted Lily into the seat and gave a gentle push. "Hold on tight, sweetheart." Another push. Lily's legs kicked out instinctively. Another, the swing arced higher. And then it happened. Lily's mouth opened and sound poured out. Bright, unrestrained, pure. She laughed, not a giggle, but a full, belly-deep laugh that turned heads and made other parents smile. Claire's vision blurred with tears. She pushed Lily higher, and the little girl laughed harder, golden curls flying. "Again!" Lily shouted. "Again, Mama!" Claire was so focused on Lily's joy that she didn't notice the black SUV parked across the street. Didn't see Vincent step out, dressed in his usual suit and violence, his expression unreadable as he watched from behind the tree. He'd been in a meeting when the call came through. She took Lily out. She's at Riverside Park. He'd left his associates mid-sentence, grabbed his keys, and driven there with his pulse in his throat, imagining every nightmare scenario. Kidnapping, ransom, his enemies finally finding the opening they'd waited for. But when he arrived, there was no threat. Just Claire pushing his daughter on a swing. Just Lily laughing. He'd forgotten that sound existed, forgotten that children were supposed to make noise, supposed to run and play and exist beyond the confines of trauma. For 3 years, the mansion had been a mausoleum. He'd built those walls to keep danger out, but he'd trapped his daughter in a tomb. And this woman, this waitress he'd forced into his world, had walked through his locked doors and opened a window. Vincent leaned against the tree, arms crossed, and felt something crack inside his chest. Not breaking, thawing, like ice that had been frozen so long he'd forgotten there was water underneath. Lily's laughter rang out again, and Vincent closed his eyes. When he opened them, Claire was looking directly at him. He'd spotted her. Her expression shifted. Fear, defiance, something else he couldn't name. He walked toward them slowly. Lily saw him and beamed. "Daddy, I swing." Vincent's throat tightened. He looked at Claire, expecting to punish her, to remind her of the rules. Instead, he said, "Push her higher." The dinner was supposed to be simple. Just the 3 of them at the long mahogany table in the formal dining room. Vincent at the head, Claire to her right, Lily and her high chair between them, smearing marinara sauce across her face with delighted abandon. Almost like a real family, if you ignored the armed man outside and the weight of everything unspoken between them. Vincent was mid-sentence, something about Lily's upcoming doctor's appointment, when the window exploded inward. Glass erupted across the table. Claire's scream died in her throat as Vincent moved, faster than she thought possible for a man his size. He grabbed Lily with one arm, shoved Claire to the floor with the other, his body covering them both as gunfire tore through the room. The chandelier shattered, raining crystal. Wood splintered. Someone was shouting orders from the hallway. Then silence. Heavy, ringing silence, broken only by Lily's terrified crying against Vincent. "Stay down," Vincent growled. He pulled a gun from somewhere inside his jacket. Had it been there the whole time? And moved toward the window with lethal precision. Claire couldn't breathe, couldn't think. She held Lily close, feeling the little girl's heart hammering against her own. More gunfire erupted from outside. Vincent fired back, 3 quick shots, each one impossibly loud. Then he was barking orders into a phone he'd pulled from his pocket, his voice cold and efficient. "East Wing, 2nd floor dining room, 3 shooters, maybe more. Lock down the property. I want them alive." Alive. The word made Claire's blood run cold. Footsteps thundered through the mansion. Vincent's men flooded the room, weapons drawn, surrounding them in a protective formation. Someone hauled a body through the broken window, a man in black tactical gear, bleeding from his shoulder, unconscious or close to it. Vincent handed Lily to one of his guards. "Take them to the safe room, now." "Vincent," Claire started. "Now." His eyes met hers, and she saw nothing human in them, just ice and fury and something far worse, purpose. The guard pulled Claire to her feet, tried to guide her to the door, but she twisted back to look at Vincent. He was standing over the wounded man, with a gun in hand, his expression carved from stone. "Mr. Callahan," and one of his men said quietly, "Basement's ready." Vincent nodded. Then he looked at Claire one last time. "Take her. Make sure she doesn't see this." But Claire had already seen enough, seen the way he transformed from the man who pushed his daughter on a swing to something else entirely, something that would walk into that basement and do unspeakable things to extract information, to send messages, to protect his empire through blood and terror. The guard finally succeeded in pulling her away, down corridors and through hidden doors to a reinforced room where Lily sobbed in her arms. Claire held Lily and stared at the steel walls, her hands still shaking. Hours later, Vincent appeared in the doorway. His shirt was different. He'd changed. His hands were clean, but Claire knew what they'd done, knew what he was capable of. "It's over," he said quietly. "You're safe." But when he reached for Lily, Claire pulled back instinctively. The hurt that flashed across Vincent's face was brief but devastating. "I did what I had to do," he said quietly. "I know. That's what terrifies me." Vincent found Claire in the library 4 days after the attack, staring out the window at nothing. She'd barely spoken since that night, and Lily had started asking why Mama looked so sad. That's what finally pushed him to act. "Come with me," he said from the doorway. Claire turned, dark circles under her eyes. "Where?" "Shooting range, basement level." She shook her head immediately. "No." It wasn't a request. He stepped into the room, his presence filling the space. "What happened the other night proved something. You're a target now. Anyone who wants to hurt me will use you or Lily to do it. You need to know how to defend yourself." "I don't want to learn how to kill people." "I'm not teaching you to kill. I'm teaching you to survive." His voice softened slightly. "Please, Claire, for Lily's sake, if not your own." That's what broke her resistance. She followed him down through the mansion's hidden levels to a private range she hadn't known existed. Soundproofed walls, paper targets at various distances, a table with several handguns laid out like surgical instruments. Vincent picked up the smallest one, checked it with practiced efficiency. Glock 43, 9mm, light enough for your frame, simple mechanism. He turned to her. "Come here." Claire approached cautiously. Vincent moved behind her, and suddenly he was close enough that she could smell his cologne, feel the heat radiating from him. He placed the gun in her hands, his fingers covering hers, adjusting her grip. "Like this," he murmured near her ear. "Firm but not tense. The gun is an extension of your arm, not a separate object." His chest was almost touching her back. She could feel him breathing. Her pulse accelerated for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. Feet shoulder-width apart, he mirrored. His hand touched her hip, guiding her stance, and electricity shot through her. "You're not trying to muscle the weapon. You're guiding it." He raised her arms, his own bracketing hers, and she was surrounded by him, by his strength, his control, the contradiction of violence and careful tenderness. "Look down the sight," Vincent said lower, rougher. "Focus on the target. Everything else disappears." But Claire couldn't focus on anything else except the way his thumb was tracing small circles on her wrist, probably unconsciously. The way his breath stirred her hair, the way her body had forgotten to be afraid of him and started responding to something else. "Vincent," Claire whispered. He went completely still. She felt the moment he realized how close they were, felt the tension shift from instruction to something dangerous and magnetic. His hand tightened on hers. "Squeeze the trigger slowly," he said roughly, but his voice was different now, strained. Steady pressure. She fired. The recoil pushed her back into him, and his free arm came around her waist to steady her, pulling her against his chest. Neither of them moved. The shot had gone wide, missing the target completely, but neither of them cared. "Again," said Vincent roughly,
but he didn't let go, and Claire didn't ask him to. They stayed like that, firing round after round, the air between them charged with everything neither could say.
When the magazine finally emptied, Vincent stepped back abruptly, putting distance between them like he'd been burned. "You did well," he said, not meeting her eyes. "Practice tomorrow, same time." He walked out before she could respond, leaving Claire alone with a smoking gun and a racing heart. Lily's fever spiked at 2 a.m. Claire woke to the sound of Vincent's voice in the hallway, sharp, commanding, afraid. She threw on her robe and ran toward Lily's room, her heart in her throat. Vincent was pacing with Lily in his arms, the little girl's face flushed and tears streaming down her cheeks. "She's burning up. I've called Dr. Reeves. He's on his way, but she won't stop crying, and I don't—" He looked at Claire with an expression she'd never seen on him before. Helplessness. Raw, unfiltered panic. "I don't know what to do." Claire crossed to him immediately, placing her hand on Lily's forehead. Hot, but not dangerously so. She'd seen this 1,000 times growing up. Her younger siblings, neighborhood kids when she babysat. "Give her to me." Vincent hesitated for only a second before transferring Lily into Claire's arms. The little girl's crying intensified briefly, then settled into whimpers as Claire began walking, swaying gently. "It's okay, sweetheart," Claire murmured. "Just a fever. We're gonna make you feel better." She looked at Vincent. "I need a lukewarm bath, not cold. Children's acetaminophen. Do you have any?" Vincent looked lost in his own home. "Maria handles the medicine cabinet. Ben, wake Maria and get me a cool washcloth, ice water, and popsicles if you have them." Claire sat in the rocking chair by Lily's bed, continuing the gentle motion. "Move, Vincent, now." Something in her tone, the same one she'd used managing Friday night dinner rushes at Aurelio's, cut through his panic. He moved. 20 minutes later, Lily was in a lukewarm bath. Claire's sleeves rolled up as she gently sponged water over the little girl's shoulders and back. Vincent stood in the doorway with medicine and supplies, watching Claire work with a calm efficiency that made his own fear look absurd. "Fever's already coming down," Claire said softly. "See, she's not crying anymore." Lily was leaning against Claire's arm, exhausted but calmer, her little fingers playing with bubbles in the water. Dr. Reeves arrived 30 minutes later, examined Lily, and confirmed what Claire already knew. "Just a virus. Fever reducer, plenty of fluids, rest. She'll be fine in a day or two." He glanced at Claire with approval. "You handled it perfectly." After the doctor left, Claire sat in Lily's room watching the little girl sleep peacefully, fever broken, breathing easy. Vincent appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of tea he'd somehow managed to make himself. "You knew exactly what to do," he said quietly, handing her a cup. "I waitressed for years. You learned to handle chaos." I smiled tiredly. "Sick kids are easier than a wedding party that's had too much wine." Vincent sat in the chair across from her, and for a long moment they just watched Lily together in the dim glow of her nightlight. "I've built an empire," Vincent said, finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "I've survived wars, betrayals, things that should have killed me a dozen times over. But watching her suffer and not being able to fix it," he looked at Claire with a devastating honesty. "I'm terrified. Messing her up." Claire met his eyes. "You're not powerless. You just can't do it alone." "No," Vincent agreed, something shifting in his expression. "I can't." The weight of what he wasn't saying hung between them, that he needed her not just for Lily's sake, but for his own. That somewhere in the past weeks, she'd stopped being the waitress he'd forced into his life and become something he couldn't name but couldn't lose. "Thank you," he said. Claire nodded, unable to trust her voice. They sat together until dawn, keeping watch over the little girl who'd brought them both into each other's lives. Claire found Vincent in his office at midnight, a glass of whiskey untouched on his desk, his jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled up. He was staring at a photograph in a silver frame, a woman with dark hair and a bright smile, holding a newborn wrapped in pink. Her name was Elena, Vincent said without turning around. He'd heard Claire's footsteps, always did. "We met in college, before all of this. before I became... He gestured vaguely at the office, the mansion, the empire. This. Claire stayed in the doorway, uncertain if she should leave or stay. "Come in," Vincent said. "Please." She stepped inside, closing the door softly behind her. Vincent set the photograph down and picked up his whiskey, finally taking a drink. She knew what my family was, what I'd become. She stayed anyway. His fingers traced the rim of the glass. Said she could see the man I used to be underneath all the violence. Thought she could save me, maybe. He laughed bitterly. She was wrong. Claire moved closer, drawn by the rawness in his voice. Lily was 3 months old. Elena wanted to visit her mother upstate, just a day trip. I told her to take the armored car, take security, but she hated that life, hated the guards and the guns. She wanted one normal day. Vincent's jaw clenched. So I let her take her own car. Thought maybe I was being paranoid. Thought maybe, just once, it would be fine. He turned to face Claire, and she saw the guilt etched into every line of his face. Brake lines were cut. Professional job. They went off a bridge into the river. His voice cracked. Elena died on impact. Lily was trapped in her car seat underwater for 8 minutes before first responders got to her. 8 minutes, Claire. She was 3 months old. Claire's hand covered her mouth. The doctors said it was a miracle she survived. No brain damage, no physical injuries. But she saw her mother die. She felt the water rising. And when she could finally talk, when she was old enough, Vincent touched the tattoo on his neck, the date. She just stopped. Stopped talking, stopped engaging, like she decided the world was too dangerous to participate in. He set down his glass and rolled up his left sleeve further. More tattoos, names, dates, symbols Claire didn't understand. "Every person I've failed," he said quietly. "Every mistake that cost someone their life. I wear them so I never forget what happens when I let my guard down." "Vincent." "I'm terrified." He cut him off, the confession torn from somewhere deep. "Every single day, I'm terrified I'll fail her the way I failed Elena. That I'll make the wrong call, trust the wrong person, and Lily will pay for my mistakes." He looked at Claire with devastating honesty. "And now I'm terrified of failing you too." Claire's breath caught. "You haven't failed anyone." "Not yet." Vincent's smile was broken. "But I will. It's what I do. I destroy everything good that comes into my life." Claire crossed the remaining distance between them and took Vincent's scarred hands in hers. "You brought Lily back. She laughs now. She plays. She's not trapped anymore." "Because of you." "No," Claire said firmly. "Because you let me in. Because you loved her enough to risk changing." She squeezed his hands. "That's not failure, Vincent. That's the bravest thing I've ever seen." Vincent stared at their joined hands and then pulled Claire closer, resting his forehead against hers. They stood like that in the quiet office, two broken people holding each other together, neither saying what they both knew, that somewhere between the mandate in the shooting range, between the fever and the confessions, they'd stopped being captor and captive and become something infinitely more dangerous. They'd become each other's salvation.
Claire woke to darkness and the smell of mildew. Her head throbbed where someone had hit her, and her wrists were bound behind her back. She was in a basement somewhere, concrete walls weeping moisture, a single bulb swinging overhead. The last thing she remembered was walking to her car after taking Lily to a doctor's appointment. Vincent's men had been there, always watching. But then someone had grabbed her from behind, a cloth over her mouth, chemical sweetness filling her lungs. "You're awake. Good." A man emerged from the shadows, 50s, expensive suit, cruel smile. My name is Marcus DeLuca. You probably don't know me, but Vincent Callahan does. We have unfinished business. Claire's heart hammered. He'll kill you for this. Oh, I'm counting on him trying. DeLuca crouched in front of her. See, Vincent's gotten soft. A waitress playing house, a little girl who makes him vulnerable. The old Vincent would never have let his guard down like this. But you? He touched her face and Claire flinched. You've made him weak, and I'm going to use that. He stood, pulling out a phone. Let's call him, shall we? Vincent was in a meeting when his phone rang. Private number. He almost ignored it, then something made him answer. Hello, Vincent. DeLuca's voice was poison. I have something that belongs to you. Every muscle in Vincent's body went rigid. Around the conference table, his associates fell silent. Put her on, Vincent said, his voice deadly calm. There was a pause, then Claire's voice, shaky but strong. Vincent, don't... The line cut. DeLuca again. Warehouse District, Pier 17. You have 2 hours. Come alone or I start sending her back to you in pieces. The call ended. Vincent stood so abruptly his chair crashed backward. Meeting's over. Get out. His men scrambled to obey. He was already dialing, already strategizing. Marco, I need every man we have. Pier 17, full tactical. He paused, his hand shaking, actually shaking. And if anyone asks why we're going to war, tell them it's because someone took my family. The word hung in the air. Family. Not his asset, not Lily's nanny. Family. Vincent arrived at the warehouse with 20 armed men, but he walked through the door alone as instructed. DeLuca was waiting, Claire bound to a chair behind him, bruised but alive. Relief and rage warred in Vincent's chest. The great Vincent Callahan, brought to his knees by a waitress. Let her go, Vincent said quietly. Your problem is with me. My problem is that you've forgotten what you are. You're not a family man, Vincent. You're a monster. And monsters don't get happy endings. DeLuca pulled a gun, pressing it to Claire's temple. Vincent's world narrowed to that single point. In that moment, he understood with perfect clarity what he'd been trying to deny for months. It wasn't that Claire was useful. It wasn't that Lily needed her. It was that Vincent needed her. That somewhere between the forced contract and the shooting lessons, between the fever and the confessions, he'd fallen completely, irrevocably, in love with her. And he would burn the entire city to ash before he let anyone take her from him. You're right, Vincent said, his voice like gravel. I am a monster. His eyes met Claire's, trying to communicate everything he'd never said. But she makes me want to be a man. Then he moved. Fast, brutal, efficient. The gunshot that rang out wasn't from DeLuca's weapon. Vincent's men flooded the warehouse. DeLuca went down, his gun skittering across concrete. Vincent was at Claire's side in seconds, cutting her bonds, pulling her into his arms. I've got you, he whispered against her hair. I've got you. Claire was shaking. You came. Of course I came. Vincent pulled back to look at her, his hands framing her face. Claire, I know, she said. I know. And when he kissed her, despot and gentle and terrified, she kissed him back. 3 months after the warehouse, Vincent Callahan did something no one thought possible. He stepped back. Not completely, men like him never fully left the life, but he handed day-to-day operations to his most trusted lieutenant, moved the family to a smaller home outside the city with actual neighbors in a backyard where Lily could play, and started the long, complicated process of legitimizing the Vincent businesses. It would take years, maybe decades. Some stains never washed clean. But he was trying. For Claire. For Lily. For the man he was learning to become. Claire stood in their new kitchen, smaller than the mansion's, but warmer somehow, watching Vincent attempt to make pancakes while Lily sat at the counter narrating every mistake. Daddy, you're burning it again. I see that, sweetheart, Vincent said patiently, scraping blackened batter off the pan. His sleeves were rolled up, showing the tattoos that Claire had learned to read like a map of his past. But his left ring finger now bore something new, a simple gold band that matched hers.
They'd gotten married quietly, just the three of them and a judge who didn't ask questions. No ceremony, no guests, just vows spoken in a courthouse that meant more than any elaborate affair could have. Later, after breakfast was cleaned up and Lily had changed out of her pajamas into a yellow dress that matched the one she'd worn to the park months ago, they drove into town. Not to some exclusive establishment with armed guards and hushed conversations, to a small family restaurant called Rosa's, the kind of place with plastic menus and coffee that came in chipped mugs. The hostess smiled at them, just another family out for lunch on a Saturday. No one recognized Vincent with his suits and his entourage. He was just a man with neck tattoos holding his daughter's hand while his wife carried the conversation about what to order. They sat in a booth by the window. Lily colored on the paper menu with crayons the waitress brought. Claire ordered for all of them, her waitress instincts knowing exactly how to make things easy for the staff. Vincent watched them both with an expression Claire had learned meant he was overwhelmed by something he couldn't articulate. "What?" she asked softly. "This," he said. "Just this." He reached across the table, taking her hand. "A year ago, I didn't know how to live. I only knew how to survive. And now?" Vincent looked at Lily, happily drawing a picture of their new house with a red door and flower boxes. Then back at Claire, the woman who'd walked into his life serving wine and somehow saved him. "Now, I have everything." His voice was rough with emotion. "A daughter who laughs. A woman I love more than I knew was possible. A chance to be better than what I was." Claire squeezed his hand. "You already are." The waitress arrived with their food, and Lily immediately dug into her grilled cheese, talking excitedly about the playground they'd visit after lunch. Claire and Vincent shared a look over her head, the kind of look that said everything words couldn't. Outside, the sun broke through clouds. Inside, a former monster learned what it meant to be just a man, a father, a husband. The Callahan Empire still existed in the shadows, but here in this small booth with syrup-sticky fingers and terrible coffee, Vincent had built something far more powerful. A family, a home, a future worth living for. And for the first time in his life, Vincent Callahan was at peace.
If this story touched your heart, if you felt every moment of Claire and Vincent's journey, then don't let this be goodbye. Hit that like button and subscribe, because tomorrow brings another tale of broken souls finding redemption, another journey from darkness into light. This community believes that love can heal the deepest wounds, that transformation is possible, that a single moment can change everything. Don't miss tomorrow's story. It might be the one that changes you, the way Claire changed Vincent. See you tomorrow. Don't regret missing it.